Hey, so today is Friday, and this week has been a little hectic for me. Mostly towards like the end of it, I've been, feeling very, weak lately. Like yesterday, we ended up not even going out or doing anything. I was just, staying at home and just resting. And I did go to the health center, local health center. I did have my therapy session and appointment, and I did get my blood pressure tested, and it was I think it's like a 90/60. It will be a 96 for us, which is quite low, but like usually my regular amount it is 170. So it is like pretty much 1 degree below that. I think if your blood pressure is like 18, it's like, because I think 1280 is usually like the gold standard. I feel like if you are at like a 96, it is more of a, there's huger difference than for me it was. But it's been, it's like one, I don't even know if they call it degree. It's been like one point lower than what usually is. But it's been kind of like, it's just crazy how things they change for me. They change not just for me in general. Like when 1 point below your blood pressure, I've been feeling very kind of like tired very easily. Like things I'm doing, they're getting me somewhat tired, even with like the least amount of effort. For example, we're gonna visit a friend of ours today. It's an elderly woman from my mom's church, and I baked her a cake. And the thing is, like a week ago, like baking that cake would have been like nothing. It just being like one of the many things I did that day. But for me today, it was I was having to take like breaks in between like doing things. I had to. I'm sleeping more, which is normal. I was sleeping less. I was having way more energy to do way more things. And then as I said yesterday, was the day where I didn't really do anything in the end. And same thing with today we're gonna have stuff to do, but if I didn't have anything, I would just stay here the whole day. I mean, I am going to dinner with my brother, and we've been looking forward to this for like a while, so I'm not going to not go. But it is something worth considering, for me, is how exactly I'm going to take it, because that's really the number one preoccupation that we have. I was really up here, and then we went down here and up here, and it's been all over the place. And my mom was even asking me earlier today, like, do we contact my doctor just yet? And I'm like, not yet, because maybe this is going to normalize. Because while like I'm very like down, not down on my luck, but I'm like very, like low energy, low spirits, low everything. I haven't had my thoughts aren't dangerous yet. They're just they're just there. You're not at that point. So I'm gonna be. So I think that like until we get that, it's okay for me to just be, like be like on low energy mode for the duration of this moment. It's interesting because like we don't really know what exactly happened. That I went from being very energetic to having very low energy. This kind of like a cause and effect thing. Listening to the fact that I was wasting too much energy, and then suddenly like my body is requiring to like more I know rest. I don't really know. Honestly, like this video, I'm gonna get a share honestly because I've been okay, so here's the share. I've been meaning to kind of like record a video talking about this for like a little while now, but I haven't done it mostly because I started a couple of times, but then I would get kind of tired, and then I would start just like slurring my words, and I wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense because it's like not only like I'm physically when I thought like physical low energy, it's like mental low energy as well. It is getting me to yeah, it's like I get some brain fog after just pushing for too long. So yeah, I don't know. Not that much has happened, and regarding like where my head is at. On one hand, something that I do enjoy about the whole low energy thing is that it seems that like my usually even like my fantasies, they're kind of like impacted. Okay, I can't stand up again. Gonna stand up a little, sit a little, stand up a little, sit up a little, and that's how I've been doing things lately. And ultimately it is about achieving, being able to do things. And I think that even if I'm at a different pace, I'm just doing things a little bit more slowly, like I'm still succeeding in what I'm setting out to do. Naturally, I have realistic understanding of like what and expectation of what I can achieve and accomplish. And I think that is the most important thing, because if you have unrealistic expectations of anything, like you're more likely to be disappointed, and like that disappointment is something that can be really bad for you, not just in itself, but if it has a cumulative effect, of just really I don't know, it just sours your general view of the world and of yourself. Basically, I'm thankfully not at a point where, because like there was a point in time where I was very, I created expectations and I couldn't really deliver, and as a consequence, things were really bad for me mentally. Okay, somebody is calling me. I don't think it's important, because I would have the number for, and I mean they can call again. But yeah, what I'm trying to say here is that oh yeah, my fantasy. So like basically they're also kind of like they're on the back runner, which is as much as I can hope for them. Like I'm not actively doing anything or hoping for anything or achieving anything, but that means that I'm not overexerting myself over certain reality, certain possibilities. Honestly, possibilities cause it seems really dumb to call it a possibility, because technically anything is possible, I know, but realistically, it's not really where it's not real. It's just my head, playing games with me. And I always have this feeling, whenever I start, noticing that like a fantasy is just, coming forth, and not only a fantasy, some specific fantasies, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna talk about this because I'm so sick and tired of, my head just doing this to me, just, creating these expectations, because yes, like they're just fantasies, but they exist as expectations of sorts, and that is kind of, that's not much that I can do, and that kind of sucks because like it just feels like it is happening in my head, completely devoid of any consent. I mean, I'm not consenting to any of that, and yet I'm having those thoughts, so I don't know. Also, let me just see if I can get this. Okay, this is better. Oh man, I don't know what exactly, because this happens every month, at least like once a month. I have this situation where I get, like my head just feeling very, everything just kind of like slowing down, and just me needing more energy to do things consuming more energy, and not having like as much energy as I have during the rest of the month. But it's kind of, I don't know, like, as I said, like it is bad in that I wasn't a very like very not excitable, but I was like also excitable, but I was like doing so much. I was just so productive, so proactive, for a little while, and now I'm back to nothing. But at the same time, as I said, there is the fact that sometimes like even the fantasies, they kind of like they take a step back. It's just like me and myself and I, and like the I doesn't involve the fantasies. They're just kind of like in the back burner. So I'm just, so like there isn't like much to do, to accomplish, sometimes. Oh yeah, sometimes I do have this moments where it's like I'm kind of dissociating from myself. I mean, dissociation is not something I am, unused to. Like I mean, like, it has to do with my mental health reality. I'm gonna go back to standing up. It's part of my mental health reality journey, whatever you want to call it, me dissociating and just kind of like, yeah, and so it's been happening not more than often necessarily, but like I think it's been happening with more notoriety lately. And I was just like some situations where I'm just like looking and then suddenly I'm like not there anymore. And I'm like, who is that? You know, and it's always, it can be very disappointing to look at yourself from like an outside perspective, particularly when you have like all the particulars to your life. You know, you just be like, okay, so this is me. You know, it's like, feels like I could have been anyone or everyone, and then I've settled on this. Of course, then like you end up resigning yourself to this, you know, like who you are. So you start finding bits and pieces that are kind of like, you know, enjoyable about you know, your life, things that you can just attach yourself to, you know, things that, it's interesting because a lot of these things, they're not really inherent to you. Like, you produce them, you've come to create them, but they're not really you. So for example, like my writing, like I can look at my novels and be proud of the work that I've been able to achieve, you know, but like that, the novel is not really a part of me, so it's not really something that I'm proud of. So I mean, you could say that I'm proud of myself for doing that because I did that thing, but it isn't like one of like the inherent things about me. It is, you know, something a little bit, there's some degrees of separation there. Same thing, for example, I like my tattoos. Like, I really like my tattoos, and I like the way they look, I like their meaning, I like how, you know, everything, you know, materialized, because they all started with an idea, right? And I like how the idea became, you know, the final product. But once again, it's not really me. I'm not even the artist, so, you know, can't really be, you know, happy about that, you know. But yeah, but I know it sounds like I'm all over the place, and honestly, I kind of am. You know, like one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video is because I wanted to record how I am, you know, just going from topic to topic, not really connected to anything, just so I have this registered, you know, so I can know what this is like. But also, you know, I mean, it's not that I'm not trying to kind of like diagnose this or anything. It's just that sometimes, you know, like when you're thinking too much, like your reality is thinking too much, you kind of like lose track of what things are like when you're not, you know, thinking as straight as you usually are. So basically, I'm kind of just, I want to go back and look at this video and some of the other videos too, because as I said, I tried 3 other times to talk about my head and where I am at, and you know, it ended up like not really working out because I exerted myself like mentally. Not so much exerted myself, it's just that like I was kind of like talking on a continuum, right? And at a certain point, like I finished the thought, or I lost that train of thought, and then there's not nowhere else for me to go to like rationally. You know, there was like other things that I could start saying, because it happens sometimes. I just sometimes start saying things, and then not just me. Like I think we all do that. You know, maybe sometimes you're just feeling the space, feeling the air. I don't really feel the need to have, you know, the room being filled like everyone. I mean, like just, you know, like environment, but space in between people. I don't really feel necessarily the need to have that, you know, be filled with something. Like I can sit in silence, I don't mind that. But sometimes when you lose track of yourself, and then you start talking, and then you don't stop talking, and then it's just like, and there's just things saying. I remember the other day, I was at my aunt's place, and my uncle, my aunt's husband, and my cousin's dad, he fainted in front of us. You know, I even tried to, you know, reach out to, you know, get to him, but it was, you know, too late. And she was pretty shocked, and then, you know, like she was very pale. She's very white, like she's very, you know, her skin is very pale normally, but she managed to be more pale than that. And also she was shaking, and she was in shock, which was an interesting thing because I'm even used to the whole fainting thing, because I fainted before, and I was no, I will faint, where I had get in a very fainty mood. But she was very, you know, something. And then I was talking to her and started talking, and I think at a certain point I kind of like I lost track of myself there. I started just talking, and then I had no idea what I was saying, and I'm just thinking, I had like a memory of myself looking back at that and be like, oh my god, why was I saying that? You know, like I'm not at a point where I'm like embarrassed or ashamed or anything. You know, I'm just like, it is what it is. But no, it did get me, you know, just looking back and being like, well, how did I get there? And then the things connected, you know, was that I was, well, ever since, so this was this Wednesday. So Wednesday before that is the day where I was physically, that's why this whole thing started, me being physically, you know, weak. Of course, it seems that it is getting worse, and the physical weakness part is getting worse for sure. But when it happened at first, it was also more like a mental thing. I was mentally exhausted or mentally depleted, however you want to put it. But anyway, so it was a week at that point. So, and as I talked about before, I don't interact with people that often unless it is a very intentional interaction. So, for example, therapy, like interacting very directly, me talking to my parents and, my family, like how I am doing it, how I'm doing, like, mentally and stuff, in case, something is happening, in case I need, something. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up, not everything, but like this particular part up. I am very glad that I have the opportunity for me to just be like this, to be vulnerable like this, not like mentally vulnerable, but like physically vulnerable, which is an interesting thing for us to think of, because like right now we are at a point where, like, I guess physical vulnerability is not that it is extinguished, much to the contrary. There's just so many examples. I think it just highlights the moments where, like, there are people who are struggling with physical security, saying like how far we've come and how and even the distribution of resources and all that. But that is kind of very fortunate, even like but not like in the context of like me having my family and friends and like them allowing me to be vulnerable, but also like financially, me having my payment and being able to have these moments of vulnerability without worrying about what's next for me in this particular regard. So I'm very, very blessed, very fortunate. I'm very glad that I am to be where I am at in this context. I think sometimes about like what is the average way of living, because we are as further away as we've ever been. Like, I mean, that's kind of like the reality of any point in time in history. Like, maybe it's going to come a point where we're gonna regress, but and we're constantly regressing, but not in this particular regard. So I'm thinking about like who's at the very, very top, how advanced they are, and who's the very, very bottom, and how not advanced they are, and like the middle. Like, am I in the middle? I'm probably actually above the middle, if being realistic. But like how much? Yeah, I want maybe not a comparison with like the entirety of humanity, but only with like the elements they are somehow pertinent to me. So maybe just my country or my continent, or maybe just my state, or just this region. I don't know, just this hemisphere. I'll let you know where I am at, and also compare to like other hemispheres and other regions, like how was their average, because I this is something that like when I was in high school I would think of, is that I am definitely like living in above average situation for the context I am inserted in. But like if I consider the entirety of, for example, like a different country, or countries that would say that they're more advanced, like I'll probably still be at the average point. It's one of those things that like it's both good and not. You don't want to hear it necessarily, but because a part of you is always going to kind of like assess your worth, your value, based on how you compare to other people, in other criteria. So there is that part of you that is making those assessments, and then is relieved or and unhappy. I'm not say embarrassed, but like unhappy that is where you are at. I don't know. So this is kind of that. My life has been, not much has been happening, because I'm at a very low energy point. So like I said, like it feels like I'm wasting more energy than than the usual to get like the bare minimum done. So it's been a lot of like me laying down and just taking a moment to myself, and sometimes I've been realizing that I'm taking a moment to myself. It's just happening. I've been watching stuff too. I watched Clockwork Orange, and I'm watching 2001: A Space Odyssey. Clockwork Orange is one of those movies that I'm like, I don't know if I watched it before or not, because I know what's going to, what happens. And I remember it being somewhat significant when I was in like high school. Not significant, but like something, other people I was talking to about that. And then, like, yes, there's a lot of things. For example, Titanic is a good example. I don't know if I ever watched it or not, but like, I know what happens. I know I've been seeing discussions about it, so like, I know all the details and things. So I'm like, did I watch it? Did I not watch it? I don't know. And honestly, like, having watched it now, I don't think that if I had not, I'm glad that I watched it. It's a very interesting movie, but it is after that I watched it, I had watched it before, then it was a good rewatch. If I had ever watched it, then it was a good watching it. But I don't know, I think if I hadn't watched it, if I didn't watch it now, and I had never watched it, I think I still have gotten like everything I could get out of the movie. And there's a novel, which I have not read, and I must be honest, I'm not gonna read it. If this was a different point in my life, I would have probably read it, but like that is not where I'm at now. But yeah, so basically what I'm trying to say here is that I'm glad I watched it, but if I hadn't watched it, I think I would have gotten everything out of it, like the meanings and stuff. I think it's more about the cinematography, which is something that historically I don't think I've ever been able to properly like appreciate. I don't think I feel like there's a certain lack of knowledge from my part for me to just properly understand like some of the choices that are made. It's the thing with like 2001 Space Odyssey that I'm watching. But it always started with me started watching I Watch Up, which I'm very much to the point, and then there was The Shining that was recommended as well. So I decided, no, let me just watch some Kubrick's movie, which I don't know if I watched it. I mean, Eyes Wide Shut, I know for a fact I have never watched. The Shining, I don't know, I may have. And Space Odyssey, I had definitely not watched it. But what I did, observe is that there is a scene in Clockwork Orange where, you see it, and I was like, oh, look at that. Like this little reference to, another this work. But yeah, so this is the second. I don't think have I ever watched another Kubrick movie? I'm not entirely sure. Or, I might have not. But I think I'm enjoying. I'm calling it cinematography, but I don't know if that's what I call it. But like the way he's telling the stories, I'm seeing the patterns, and I'm enjoying it. I'm like looking forward to like more. Yeah. Oh, well, there's also like I think it was Born to Kill, which is another one by him that they have on HBO Max, which I might watch. But as I said, I'm like in a very slow mood, so I've been kind of watching things. Sometimes I've been sleeping a lot and watching, some things. That's kind of like where I am at. Anyways, is bye.